Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to Friday Night Filmstrips. And for tonight's film, we're going to be taking a look at a movie suggested to me by my friend Art as we take a look at Bugsy Malone. Now, my history with this movie prior to seeing it. Well, would you believe I don't really have a lot of history with it? Yeah, until my friend Art brought this film up to me, I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know anything about it. However, one day while I was on a Discord chat with Art and a few of our friends, we were on the topic of movies and they brought up this film. And basically, like I said, I had an abso-friggin-lutely no idea what the plot for the film was. I had never heard of it. The name didn't ring any kind of bell. As such, they explained what the movie was and even showed a clip of it to us, and I fell in love immediately. I mean, like, the instant I saw the clip that they showed, I was hooked. I looked at this and thought, is this real? Is this a real movie? I want to see this shit. And as such, as my friend Art was talking about it and talking it up and talking about why they loved it, I kind of sort of coerced him into suggesting the movie to me. I didn't just grab them by their imaginary lapels and say, suggest this movie to me, but I did kind of say, so you would suggest this movie to me, right? And so, yes, and ultimately, here it is now. It got added to the lineup, and here we are looking at it today. However, while I had this movie as part of my collection, I never sat down and watched it before today. I can consider it like a sort of surprise for myself. I wanted to actually see it in its full and kind of essentially leave it all just leave myself unspoiled, so to speak. I wanted my reaction right now to be at its barest. So, and even though I owned this DVD for quite a while, I never actually sat down and watched it before today. However, However, was all that time waiting worth it? Or is this a film best suited for my friend and not for me? Well, let's take a look at it and find out. As today, we're going to be discussing Bugsy Malone. And Art, if you are watching this video, I hope you enjoy it. So, with all that out of the way, let's get to the plot summary of this movie. And before I begin, I need to bring up one very important detail about this movie. One that I think helps add to what the overall charm of it is. Every single actor in this movie is a child actor. And I mean every single actor. The lead characters, the side characters, the background characters, extras, every single person in this film is a child actor. And all of them try playing this film as if they were adult actors. And I don't mean all the characters are children too. No, all of them are meant to be adults in universe. But if all you have to do is just sit down and watch a single scene in this movie, and you would realize, are these all just kids? And it's true. It is. But I think that's what adds to the film's charm. And I'll explain that after I'm done with the plot summary. Because, well, the plot of Bugsy Malone, it's a gangster movie, like I said. And what kicks the plot of the movie off is that there is a gangster by the name of Fat Sam who runs a speakeasy during the Prohibition era. And, well, he's kind of in a gang war. What's going on is that one of his guys, a man by the name of Roxy, I think, was gunned down by a rival gang leader by the name of Dandy Dan, who basically wants to muscle in on Sam's turf and pretty much just take over the entirety of the New York underground, or Brooklyn underground. I don't remember which. Chicago, maybe? I don't know. Point is, he wants to take over Sam's turf, and Sam ain't exactly happy with it. And, well, to kind of further emphasize this, it's during one night while Fat Sam's speakeasy is just kind of, in business, everyone's enjoying themselves and everybody's singing and dancing. Some of Dandy Dan's men come in and just shoot up the place, which, again, I need to bring up another little factor of this movie. Instead of guns, they use pies. Sort of. Like, the standard revolver in this world is a pie. Like a standard small handheld pie that you can just hold in one hand and then just chuck without a moment's notice. But what makes Dandy Dan's gang so better than Fat Sam's is the fact that he actually has guns whose bullets are little pies. It's kind of silly and stupid, but I love it. And as such, Pretty much, like I said, it's a gang war, and it's a gang war that sadly Fat Sam is losing as Dandy Dan keeps targeting any and all of his businesses. And however, in the midst of all this is when we actually meet our main characters for the movie. The titular Bugsy Malone and a performer by the name of Blousy, who wants to get into the entertainment business because she wants to have her name in lights, go to Hollywood, be a star, so to speak, but she wants to start at the bottom. And of course, that means she's starting at Fat Sam's Speakeasy. Unfortunately, every time she wants to talk to Fat Sam about, getting an audition and performing on stage, he kind of blows her off and tells her to come back tomorrow. Which, according to the janitor of this place by the name of Fizzy, that's not really gonna do anything, as apparently that's something he always says to anyone who wants to perform. For, case in point, Fizzy wants to perform and be a tap dancer on stage, but every time he brings it up to Fat Sam gives him the same spiel. As such, Blousy doesn't really think that she has any good chances of getting here. However, after she got turned away by Fat Sam one night, which is the night that Dandy Dan's men shoot up the place, she ends up running into one of the customers of the place, well, like I said, Bugsy Malone, who immediately takes an interest in her and wants to get to know her, even though she pretty much tells him to hit the road. As such, after Dandy Dan's gang shoots up the place, she tries leaving with Bugsy Malone chasing after her, and while at first she genuinely wants him to go away, eventually his charms do end up winning her over, and they decide to at least go to a restaurant and have some food, get some drinks, and, just enjoy each other's company. As such, from there, Bugsy and Blousy end up kind of sharing their respective dreams. Like I said, Blousy wants to be a star, while Bugsy said that he always wanted to be a fighter, but he has a glass jaw, so he can't exactly go very far in the business. But he is smart. He makes up for his shortcomings by, even if he can't be tough, he just outthinks people. Case in point, when it comes time to pay the bill on their food, well, neither Bugsy or Blousy have any money. So how does Bugsy get around it? He goes over to a phone booth, tells the operator to call the number back to test it out, and so once he's done and he goes to pay his bill, the operator calls the phone, the lady running the lady behind the bar goes to answer it, and when she goes in, he locks her in, and he and Blousy just dine and dash. So, yeah, he's, like I said, pretty resourceful and pretty smart guy. As such, Bugsy and Blousy do kind of sort of start a relationship, and Bugsy does encourage Blousy to, continue her career, actually go forward, actually make something of herself, because he thinks that she can make it big. Unfortunately, though, it's a task easier said than done, especially when she does want to audition for a big Broadway performance. Before she can even get the chance to sing, the director's ex comes in and demands to take the stage before Blousy can even sing a note. So, yeah, this is not exactly doing well. However, Bugsy thinks that Blousy can still get a job at Fat Sam's, and while Blousy still thinks that that's easier said than done, Bugsy says that he'll vouch for her, as, well, he thinks he's got an in, and that's mostly because Fat Sam's girlfriend has the hots for Bugsy. As Bugsy goes in one night and he intends to try and talk up Blousy, but Fat Sam's girlfriend comes in and immediately she starts trying to put the moves on him and just gets sweet with him. And it couldn't have come at a more fortuitous time, because unfortunately things are not going so well for Fat Sam with him and Dandy Dan. Now, basically, like I said, going back to the gang war aspect of the story, Dandy Dan, like I said, has been winning. The guns he's been using, which are called splurge guns, I'm gonna let that sink in just for a minute. Okay, like I said, the guns he's been using, called the splurge guns, are actually allowing him to essentially get an advantage in this gang war over Fat Sam. It's been allowing him to take out all of Fat Sam's men wherever they are, whether they're at the barbershop or at a restaurant. Essentially, Dandy Dan is winning. As such, Fat Sam thinks that if he wants to win this war, that he's got to get his hands on those guns. Unfortunately, though, he doesn't really have a lot of leads. Well, sort of. He does get a lead from someone who has that he has as an in a laundromat or something, but when he sends his men to go out and see if they can use that lead to go and get their own guns, they get ambushed by Dandy Dan's men, and all of them get gunned down, leaving the only members of Fat Sam's gang around, being Fat Sam himself, and his right-hand man by the name of Knuckles. As such, Fat Sam realizes that he kind of needs a new strategy if he wants to take down Dandy Dan. Unfortunately, though, because Dandy Dan is gaining so much ground with Fat Sam, basically Fat Sam needs to keep up a strong appearance. After all, if he shows weakness at this point, then at this point Dan knows that he can go in for the kill. As such, Fat Sam has to try and at least keep up a strong appearance, which means business around the club has to stay as usual, which is where we cut back to Bugsy Malone and Blousey. Because while Bugsy is talking with Fat Sam's girlfriend, like I said, she tries putting the moves on him, and just as Blousey walks into the club, she gives Bugsy a peck on the forehead, which Blousey sees, and justifiably she gets outraged at this. And while Bugsy tries to smooth things over with her, at this point, she's like, no, you're just a bum. However, she does go up to Fat Sam's office and demands to audition, except now because Fat Sam is so desperate to keep up a sense of normalcy around here, he says that, sure, go ahead, you actually get in the performance, you got the job. And so she manages to audition, and, well, Fat Sam lets her stick around. However, like I said, Blousey wants something to do with Bugsy, and so while he does chase her out of the club wanting to talk to her, she manages to evade him, and Bugsy realizes he's got a lot of explaining to do. As such, on the night of Blousey's performance comes up, Bugsy tries to, see her backstage and give her some flowers, but she pretty much just tells him to shove it and piss off as she takes the flowers and then just throws them right back in his face. So, yeah, things aren't going so well. In the meantime, back with Fat Sam, he thinks he's finally got a strategy to take down Dandy Dan, as he basically calls him and wants to set up a sit down, so to speak, out in the woods. And basically, while both Fat Sam and Dandy Dan want the other person to think that it's just like a business meeting where they can just sit down, talk, and try and iron things out, both sides have every intention of betraying each other, as Fat Sam's sorry, I'm digesting food. Fat Sam's strategy is that he wants to employ a man by the name of, sorry, I wrote this down, so I gotta go look through it. He wants to get a man by the name of, where is it? Rudy Buganzi, who is supposed to be like this wild man and a wild card, so to speak. And basically what the plan is this. Basically, Fat Sam wants to get Dandy Dan right where he wants him to be, and so once his guard is down, Rudy will come in and then just throw pies right in his face and then end it right there and then. Whereas Dandy Dan, well, his men are doing fine, so basically what they're going to do is just be on standby in case things go south, at which point they will gun Fat Sam down. So, yeah, things are not going... So, yeah, that's a big plan. So, yeah, it looks like they have a strategy in mind. However, there's one piece of the puzzle that Fat Sam is missing. He needs a driver, which, well... Wouldn't you know it, but when Bugsy went to go talk to Blousey, he mentioned how he was going to go and get a job. A real job. Something that will earn him some dough. And, well, wouldn't you know it, Fat Sam has a spot open, and so as he runs into Bugsy in the hallway, he tells him that he's got a job and he invites him into his office to iron out the details. As such, Bugsy becomes his driver, and here's another little fun thing that this movie likes to do with with the fact that it has child actors. All the cars are pedal cars. I'm not even kidding. Like the pedals that they use to move the cars, they're bike pedals, the kind that you just ride around on, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious. I'm sorry. I there's little parts. This movie it's clever, so clever, and I think it's great. But anyway, basically the day of the meeting comes around, and so Bugsy and Fat Sam do end up going there, and Fat Sam, of course, tries to be all respectful while still maintaining a strong front, but Dandy Dan is just showing nothing but disrespect. Pretty much just telling Fat Sam that he's old news, it's time to go out, and that it's Dandy Dan's time to shine, and no matter what Fat Sam wants, he's just gonna no matter what Fat Sam wants, Dandy Dan is pretty much just going to own everything he has. At which point, when Fat Sam realizes that Dandy Dan is not backing down, he immediately calls Rudy to the front, and so Rudy tries to hit Dandy Dan with the pies, until Dandy Dan calls his men and like I said, shoots him down. However, Bugsy, seeing that everything goes south, immediately starts thinking smart as he ducks behind the car, and while Rudy does end up taking a fall, so he can't really do anything, Bugsy manages to run to the edge of the street and manages to direct Dandy Dan's men down the street so that they get away, so they're running away. And so while they're distracted, he manages to make a quick getaway back to the car, and so after he gets Fat Sam back inside, he makes a run for it, with Dandy Dan seeing this, calling his men back, and leading to a pretty amusing car chase. Thanks to Bugsy's quick thinking, they're able to evade Dandy Dan's men, and so Fat Sam realizes, hey, Bugsy's actually a pretty cool guy, and as such, he gives him the money that he owes him and then some, even directing him towards a new tailor so he can get a brand new suit. As Fat Sam thinks that maybe it's a good idea to keep Bugsy Malone on the payroll. As such, with the money that Bugsy has, he actually does call back Blousy, and while Blousy's still a little ticked at him, she is willing to at least hear him out, especially when he says he got some money for Fat Sam. Excuse me one sec. Sorry about that. But yeah, like I said, Bugsy and Blousy do meet up, and, well, he's able to convince Blousy that, yeah, he is working for Fat Sam, especially when Bugsy is actually driving around in Fat Sam's car. As such, the pair of them kind of go on a little date as they go out to a lake, go and kind of just enjoy each other's company, go fishing on a boat, just go canoeing. They're just having a good time all around. As such, basically, Bugsy keeps treating Blousy to some more of the high life, as he even manages to get her a gift, which includes a viewfinder which will allow her to see famous movie stars, and he tells her that with his leftover money, he'll get them tickets straight to Hollywood, which would allow Blousy to get into the big times, so to speak. And so Blousy is just all for this, but before Bugsy can even get the tickets, well, he's got to at least drop off Fat Sam's car. So he does drop Blousy off, and he does go and park the car, and he does end up going to park Fat Sam's car. However, before he can go and meet back up with Blousy, well, he hears some moaning from some nearby trash cans, and when he goes to investigate, he sees what looks like a man who's passed out, until a group of muggers come out and start beating the shit out of Bugsy, to the point where they end up stealing the remainder of his money. Thankfully, Bugsy is not killed because, well, someone comes in and saves him. This guy by the name of Leroy Smith, who it turns out has a mean hook. And so after he manages to shake them off Bugsy, well, Bugsy is thankful for the help, though he is upset over the fact that he's lost the money. However, he thinks that he did notice Leroy's hook and thinks that maybe he can train him to be a boxer. And so he brings him to a gym to teach him how to box, and, well, while Leroy's a bit hesitant to go there because he doesn't really want to be a boxer, well, Bugsy talks him into actually training, and, well, like I said, mean hook. He actually managed to knock out one guy in a single punch, so that's good. But in the meantime, back with the gang war, Fat Sam's business is going even further downhill, as Dandy Dan is now hitting some more of his business, including where he gets his hooch, so to speak, as well as I think his vegetables, but don't quote me on that. Point is, all of these are things that are direct supplies to Dandy Dan's club now, which means that with them out of the way, or no, to Fat Sam's club. Sorry, these are direct lines to Fat Sam's club, which means that if Dandy Dan is going the way Fat Sam thinks he is, then his next hit is going to be the club itself. At which point Fat Sam realizes he's kind of screwed and he needs help. As such, he tells his girlfriend that he needs Bugsy Malone, that he needs Bugsy right now, which he's having trouble contacting him. As such, he tells his girlfriend that he wants her to bring Bugsy to him right now so they can have a face-to-face, and she complies as she goes to Bugsy's apartment just as he comes home, and she tells him that Fat Sam wants to see him. As such, Bugsy does go to meet with Fat Sam in the club, and Fat Sam tells him he needs his help. But basically he says that with Dandy Dan's doing, he basically, this is a last stand kind of thing. They need to get some kind of advantage, or else all Fat Sam's operations are going to go belly up. Of course, Bugsy asks, well, why the hell do you want me? I'm a nobody. I'm no better than anyone else. But Fat Sam says, no, you are better than everyone else. The rest of these guys are idiots, but you have brains up here, and that's what I need. Again, this doesn't really convince Bugsy to join him. That is till Fat Sam starts just putting money right down in front of him, and yeah, it's a lot of cash. As such, Bugsy sees that, and he agrees lickety-split. As such, he ends up calling Blousy again and tries to break the news to her that he doesn't have the tickets yet, he just has to do one more thing for Fat Sam, but Blousy is going back to think he's a bum, and that he just lied. So yeah, again, their relationship is kind of rocky. Though Blousy does sing a little song about how she seems to fall for guys like him a lot. But in the meantime, as that's going on, Bugsy starts getting to work trying to get some kind of advantage on Dandy Dan, and he gets the help of Leroy to do it. As they manage to sneak to Dandy Dan's mansion, because, yeah, he has a mansion, and, wouldn't you know it, they manage to find a lead as to where Dandy Dan is getting his guns. As we see someone coming straight to his doorstep with crates upon crates from a place called Splurge Inc. Did I mention I love this movie? With this little bit of information in mind, Bugsy and Leroy go right to the splurging factory, but find that the entire place is guarded by umpires. I wish I was kidding. Literal baseball umpires. I don't know why. They just are. I don't know. I don't understand it either. But the thing is, there's quite a few of them, and they all are armed with bats. As such, Bugsy and Leroy realize that if they ran in with just the two of them, they wouldn't be able to take these guys down. Meaning that if they want to storm the place, they need at least an army. Fortunate, then, that Bugsy knows just where to look, as he goes to a local soup kitchen where we see a bunch of guys down on their luck, and Bugsy manages to stir them into a frenzy by telling them they could either be down on their luck and do nothing, or they can stand up and fight. As such, all of the people at the soup kitchen join Bugsy and Leroy as they all charge right back to the Splurge Inc. And after one of them, this little kid by the name of Babyface manages to trick the umpires into running to a building, which everyone locks them in. They manage to storm into Splurge Inc. and get their own versions of the Splurge guns, which they bring back to Fat Sam's club. As such, immediately preparations for the final battle begin, as Fat Sam arms all of his men with the Splurge guns, while Dandy Dan gets all of his men ready to just storm Fat Sam's club. As such, as part of Fat Sam's defense, Bugsy and co. just kind of put everybody in hiding and pretend that everything's just business as usual. Just get the singers and dancers on stage, get all the waiters going about, get music playing, and basically, Dandy Dan and his men all just prep themselves up, and they all just go over there. And so, Dandy Dan's men do show up, and it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, because you want to know what the climax of this movie is? It's a giant pie fight. They're just throwing cream pies everywhere at everyone, and it's just all over the map. First they're using the guns, and they're actually using the pies, and when they run out of both, they just grab any bits of cream that are all over the place and just start chucking it at everybody. It's just ridiculous and stupid. It's just all over the map and insane, and I kind of love it. But eventually the fighting comes to an end, as some of the pies end up hitting the guy who is playing on the piano. And this causes the whole room to just freeze up in shock in seeing this, and the guy on the piano sees all this before he starts playing a little tune about how they can all be anything they want to be, but maybe they're better together. They're better, stronger. And so this song is upbeat enough and has enough of a tune that it melts away all the hatred between Fat Sam and Dandy Dan and their men. And as a result, it leads to a massive truce. They all decide, you know what, why are we fighting? Let's all work together. We're better off together. We can be good together. And so everybody sings happily about how they can be anything they want to be, how they can be great, while Bugsy and Blousy end up reconciling in the midst of all this, and the film ends with a song going on as Bugsy and Blousy, which clearly takes place sometime later, as they're both cleaned up, and, Bugsy takes the money that he got from Fat Sam, as he and Blousy go off to Hollywood. So, yeah, that's Bugsy Malone. Okay, so the thing is, the plot summary that I gave, I don't think does this movie justice, because the thing is, while the plot of this movie isn't bad, I mean, it's not amazing, but it's not bad. But it's at its core, it's just a straight up gangster story. It's a straight up gangster story, and it's not a bad one. It hits all the notes that you would need for a gangster story. It's got likable main characters, some good conflict, to get some nice little romance that ends on a kind of happy note. So, but the thing is, the real strength of this movie, what really makes it so worth watching, is how they tell the story. Like I said, when it comes down to Bugsy Malone, what made me want to see it was how they were telling the story. Like I said, one of the things that how they told it was with the actors. Like I said, every single actor in this movie, from the big name roles to the people in the background just doing random shit so they can fill up a scene, are child actors. Every single one. And the thing is, the film does not acknowledge this. In universe, all these people are grown adults. all of them are supposed to be living in the big guys world, basically just doing all the serious stuff that people in their positions are supposed to do. Fat Sam is supposed to be this angry gangster who tolerates no disrespect, and ultimately is just trying to hold everything together just to keep his underground empire afloat. While Dandy Dan is a smug rich guy who wants to muscle in on his territory and is not taking no for an answer. And ultimately, even Bugsy Malone, he comes across like this kind of smarmy but ultimately fast-talking guy who, while definitely getting into his fair share of trouble, is ultimately a nice person who's just trying to make his way in the world and do right by the people he cares about. And again, those are not bad. It's just that again, they're all kids. And the thing is, when you have a story like this told with that in mind, it's hard to take it seriously. But that's the whole point. This movie is not meant to be taken seriously. It knows going in, right off the bat, that this is a silly, silly production, and it rolls with it right from square one. Case in point, the very first shot of this movie is supposed to be like it's supposed to be the street at night. There's barely any sounds. You hear like maybe a hoot of an owl, the dripping of water, and we just see neon, and the only lights we get are from street lamps and neon lights, just kind of illuminating the whole area. It looks dark and serious, and then Fat Sam starts narrating, you're like, oh my. At which point we see Roxy as he's running down the street, followed by Dandy Dan's men, at which point once he's backed into an alleyway, he gets gunned down with fucking pies! Again, that's an immediate tone setter. It shows you what kind of movie you're in for. And ultimately just from that, you can see what the film has to offer. And it just keeps getting better. The film knows full well that what it's doing is not supposed to be taken seriously, and it has fun with it. Like I said, how they implement having all the child actors in this movie is through very creative means. Whenever they kill someone, they use pies instead of guns. And the thing is, they openly acknowledge in universe that they are pies, not guns. The fact that Dandy Dan is using guns with pies for ammo is the whole reason he's even winning, because a regular pie is easy to dodge, which Fat Sam even demonstrates during a meeting as he asks one of his guys to stand in a corner, and he just chucks a pie at him, which he dodges. He says, see, that's why we're losing. So we're losing. These things are old-fashioned. It's just so silly and just kind of all over the map. But in universe, it's what they do. This is just normal for them. This is what they're used to in this reality. But it just keeps going from there. Like I said, the cars in this film are all pedal cars. They don't actually use use a gas or brake. They use the fucking pedals. If you want the car to move, you have to pedal as you're driving around. And of course, it doesn't really go very fast. Even during a very serious scene where Dandy Dan is arming one of his men with one of the splurge guns. It's like dark shadows. The man is standing there, and suddenly a car pulls up. A window of the car rolls down as the guy is given a briefcase which has the pieces of the splurge gun in it. But then as the car rolls away, you just see him pedaling on the car, and it takes all the seriousness right out of the scene. But again, that's why it works. That's what makes the film work. It does not take itself seriously. And the thing is, while the story itself is supposed to have that air of seriousness, otherwise it wouldn't be funny, it still acknowledges that it's a film. It's supposed to be a gangster story told with kids, and it takes them, and ultimately, because it knows it's kind of silly and dumb, it just rolls with it and has fun with that. Because the thing is, the humor in the movie doesn't just come from the fact that these are kids in adult roles. The humor also comes from the movie itself. There's plenty of slapstick to be found throughout the movie, and sometimes at Fat Sam's expense, sometimes at the expense of all the main characters. It's just there to be something silly and fun. And like case in point, when Fat Sam is supposed to be getting his men, he wants to get a drink, but he gets spritzed in the face, and someone laughs, like, oh, you think that's funny? You think that's funny? And he spritzes him back. At which point he does a similar thing with his his men and sprays them, and it's just, of course, and it's just funny. And going back to the fact that these characters are all played by kids, the acting is honestly some of the best bad acting that I've seen in a movie. And I don't mean bad as it's like bad acting. No, these kids are clearly giving it their all. They're trying to have a fun time with this, and they clearly are trying to get the inflections down pat for what they're given. But they're also kids, and they tend to, and they're doing it with exaggerated accents. Like, they're trying to, like, Fat Sam tries to make him sound Italian with the stereotypical way he talks and all that. And basically, he has all these exaggerated motions, both with his voice and his body, to just kind of showcase how over the top and serious he is. And the same goes for Dandy Dan. The dude is just, the dude acts all overly serious. In fact, if anything, comparing the two, Dandy Dan definitely looks the more sophisticated, and he's just a kid with a fake handlebar mustache on his face. Like, why? Just why? But again, it works to the film's advantage because it kind of helps give the air that these are just kids playing around. Hell, in the final act, they openly say, it's openly shown in universe that being hit with a pie does not equal death. Hell, when Rudy got hit with pies, when Sam and Dan were having their sit down, even Bugsy was like, dude, what are you doing? Do something, before Rudy fell over. Even though it was clear he got hit in the face with several of the splurge guns, which, again, splurge guns, that alone should tell you what you need to know in this movie. Again, it works again, it's just meant to be silly and just over the top, but it's also, I'm losing my point right now. My point, like I said though, going back to the child acting, it works to the film's benefit because, like I said, it just feels like these are kids having fun. That's why I was talking about the pies. Like I said, the pies are meant to be, like I said, it's like being hit with the pies doesn't actually kill you. It's more like you're taken out of the game, so to speak. Like, in universe, getting hit with a pie does not equal death. But being hit with a pie does essentially mean that you're out. You're out of the game now. You can't play anymore. Vamos, bye-bye, don't come back. That is what apparently being hit with a pie signifies. But they treat it with the exact same seriousness that you would if they were actually being shot with a gun. It's over the top. It's like I said, it's just so dumb and silly, but it works to the film's advantage because all of this combined just gives us the air that these are just a bunch of kids just playing around and having fun. And I like that. I genuinely like that. Because it has this, because of all this, it gives the film a lighter air. And despite how these characters act and how they treat this like it's big, serious business, throughout the whole film, you just get the impression that these are just a bunch of kids who are just kind of sitting down and just wanting to play a game of gangsters with one another on a grander scale. And I kind of dig it for that. It gives it a very fun air and it makes it feel very lighthearted and silly and enjoyable. And it works for the most part. And it's helped by the fact with how thorough the film is. Because like I said, despite the silliness, they do still try to give it a somewhat serious air. The costume design is really good, and it's like I said, all the child actors are clearly doing the best with what they're given, and it works. It does work again. It does work. But like I said, it really helps emphasize what you can expect from the movie. But another aspect that I think also works is, well, the songs. I didn't talk about it when I did the plot summary, but Bugsy Malone is a musical, and it has its fair share of songs, some of which I did skip, many of which I skipped over when I talked about them, which I know kind of sucks because I did talk about songs that I looked at Fern Gully and The Brave Little Toaster, but Bugsy Malone is just a straight up musical, and so I sadly did kind of need to skim over some stuff when I did it, but the songs, I think, are actually pretty entertaining as well. They're all, but again, going with how the film tends to have, goes with its absurdist tone in many points, well, while the child actors may be dancing and mouthing the words, they're not singing. None of them sing in this movie. I mean, the characters sing, but the voices that come out of their mouths are not children's voices. Unless all of these kids just hit puberty for the few minutes it took to sing these songs, they are not kids. they're not singing these songs. All of them clearly are sung by adults, with the children only providing like choreography, dancing, and mouthing the words because some voices are clearly meant to match up with certain characters. But ultimately, like I said, the songs are just sung by adults with the children miming them out, which again works to the film's advantage because it just helps add more to the absurdity of everything. When you have a kid with this kind of high pitched voice suddenly go deep as he's singing a sad song. Like case in point, there's a scene with Fizzy when he tries to talk to Fat Sam after hours about doing an audition, and Fat Sam gives it the whole "yeah, tomorrow, I promise, tomorrow." At which point, once he leaves, Fizzy starts feeling a little down as he starts singing. And like I said, his voice goes from high to low as he sings about the melancholy of having a dream and constantly having it be shut down. It's a nice song, but it's so off-putting to have this character who has a clearly childlike voice suddenly have it just become suddenly grow into an adult just for this one song. It's supposed to be a sad song, and I even admit there was a moment when it was done where I went aw, as there was a woman that stayed behind after hours and kind of danced to the Fizzy song and even walked out with him, which I liked. But again, all of this is underplayed by the fact that again the voice coming out of Fizzy's mouth is clearly not his own, but even with that in mind, the songs still work. Like I said, that the way that the styles kind of clash with having the voices that come out of their mouths when they sing clearly not being their own does work towards the film's overall comedic tone. But the songs themselves are actually all well done. The opening number for the song is a kind of a laid back jazzy song singing about Bugsy, which I think is good, and it plays twice throughout the movie. But then after that, there was another song sung by all the showgirls at Fat Sam's speakeasy, and the song was called Fat Sam's Grand Slam. And it's a very catchy and upbeat song that really kind of helps carry the mood of what you can expect from his speakeasy. And I like that. It's nice. It's nice. It's jazzy, and I kind of found myself kind of dancing a little to it when I was hearing it. So I dug that. And there's still more. And again, there are more songs in the film that are definitely nice. There's "I'm Feeling Fine." "My Name Is I'm Feeling Fine," which is supposed to be Blowsy's opening number, which is kind of a tame song, which makes sense. But then you have "My Name Is Tallulah," which is a nice song, which is again a nice little energetic song with some kind of emotion, with some kind of, I guess I was gonna say, sexual undertones, because the song's clearly about Tallulah, who's Fat Sam's girlfriend, about the impression that she leaves on guys. There's the song "Down and Out," which is the song that Bugsy uses to essentially inspire the guys at the soup kitchen to come and join them in their fight. And even the final song, which is called "You Give a Little Love," is actually meant to be a reprise of an earlier song in the movie called "Bad Guys," which is about Fat Sam's men singing about how they could have been anything in life, but they chose to be bad guys because they're just really damn good at it. And both songs, I think, are fun. They're energetic and nice, and have a lot of upbeat and fun dancing moments. And the thing is, the kids themselves, when they're not singing, they dance to these songs really well. They're very in tune with them. They got all the steps down well, and it really makes and it's really a spectacle to see them all just coordinate with one another, dance to the music, and have fun with what they're given. Yeah, they're clearly not singing, but it's clear the kids are having fun with what they're doing, and I like it. It's really nice. And as such, when it comes down to it, I can safely say I think I like this movie. Is it flawed? Maybe. I will say that there were a couple things that did kind of make me scratch my head a little, like the stuff with Leroy. I felt was a little unnecessary, as he was really only important for the final climax, and even then he barely did anything. The stuff with Fizzy, I feel like it's there to help kind of showcase racial undertones, because, well, Fizzy himself is played by a black kid, and he's supposed to be the janitor, so it's clear that that part of the reason why he's been reduced to the janitor is because he was black, but ultimately he didn't really play a major part in the movie, so I don't know. It really didn't feel like it added anything. And while I think the climax is over the top, insane, and silly, at the same time, it also feels rather pointless, as it doesn't really feel like it has a definitive conclusion, as what ends the fight is the guy on the piano thinking about how they're all stronger together, even though they really didn't have a point. I mean, Fat Sam even admitted during the fight that it was just getting ridiculous, but it was still just weird, and I don't get it. So as such, so yeah, there are some flaws in there, and if I rewatch it, I might notice more of them. But for a first viewing, I think I can openly say I love this movie. It's silly, over the top, kind of dumb, but it has fun with itself, and basically just takes what it has, runs with it, and just does not stop until it reaches the end. It takes no prisoners, just wants to have a good time with what it's created, and overall, I feel like that energy transfers well, is transferred well all throughout the movie, and I think that if you choose to sit down and watch this movie, I think you'll be able to feel it too, and have a good time. So, overall, I think Bugsy Malone, for all its ups and downs, is a very fun, stupid, and enjoyable film that, quite frankly, I think you'll have a good time with. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed the video. Art, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. And well, I hope to see you next week as we look at a film submitted by my friend Kiki, as we look at a prequel or spin-off. I don't really know which way best to describe this next one, but we are going to be looking at a film from another famous animated movie as we take a look at Bartok the Magnificent.